Whatever we share in social media becomes mainstream in traditional media without any deliberate attempt to correct for a piece of information or to verify its credibility. In a survey of 18 countries conducted by the British Broadcasting Corporation, 79% of respondents said they worried about what was fake and what was real on the internet. While internet represents a source to many people, it only embodies 10% of the total share of traffic of fake news when compared to social media at 42%. In a recent study involving analysis of online content, researchers found that only 27% of content was verifiable for valid claims, compared with 73% of non-verifiable content categorized as either inconclusive or misinforming. Some observers link the viral diffusion of digital fake information to the rise of social bots, which are artificially intelligent agents that communicate autonomously on social media. Hence, several factors contribute to the increasing consumer worries, including absence of internet gatekeepers, conflicting information from competitive media sources, having open, free, and unrestricted access to information, and fierce competition in sharing information in diverse news and media. At the same token, the number of social media users worldwide has increased from 0.97 billion in 2010 to 2.9 billion in 2019, according to Statista in 2019. Interestingly, though, there are wide differences between the types of social media sites used and ages of their corresponding users. Most middle-aged adults in the United States use YouTube and Facebook, while young adults use Instagram and Snapchat. Additionally, there are observed similarities and differences in social media use among people living globally when compared to the United States. In one study examining social media use among 237 Arabs living in 4 different continents of Asia, Europe, North America, and Australia, YouTube was reported as the #1 go-to source for nutrition information, followed by Facebook. In another analysis of social media content using YouTube, researchers found that most popular videos about autism spectrum disorders were uploaded by non-professionals. Those videos had more than 121 million views combined. And at the same token, augmented reality was actually becoming more mainstream in social media and is being marketed as the future of social media, given its potential to bring new content delivery approaches to social media. Consistent evidence demonstrated the use of projection-based augmented reality applications to digitally enhance food, or augment food volumes to influence perceptions around eating. Some researchers have shown how augmenting the shape of a food volume using real-time shape deformations could influence perception of satiety and subsequent food intake. One key example is the Meta Cookie project that uses projection-based augmented reality to control the cookie flavor, and it enables us to change the perceived taste of a cookie by overlaying visual and olfactory information onto a real cookie. All types of augmented reality can be easily integrated within smartphones, which is a critical issue in studying digital nutrition and misinformation, given the fact that more smartphone users now even access news in bed, about 46%, than use the device when commuting. In order to better understand the persuasive effect of mobile augmented reality, there is a need to identify with some of the key psychological theories that are critical for our understanding of human behavior interaction with mobile augmented reality, misinformation, and social media. Research in cognition supports the process of triggers for relearned behaviors that entail the ability to expose users to newly created experiences that can induce favorable new connections and circuits in their brain by stimulating plasticity in the amygdala. This potentially changes the structure and function of the brain. Once the structure and function are changed, a user will become better able to engage, learn new skills, while achieving more efficient communication between sensory and motor pathways. One of the neural mechanisms in designing applications that stimulate amygdala plasticity is the role of Pavlovian conditioning. Cardinal, Parkinson, Hall, and Everett demonstrate the implication of amygdala in the control of emotional processing and the Pavlovian learning of emotional responses. Many behavioral treatments are based on the principles of Pavlovian conditioning. For example, Pavlovian principles imply that information behavior is triggered by antecedent cues that are strongly associated with information consumption. This means that efforts to design any application should be geared towards teaching users to identify with their own personal cues that trigger their behavior towards misinformation, while teaching them to learn new favorable responses to information consumption. This is at best clarified and demonstrated in a recent study where researchers showed positive changes in purchasing behaviors of consumers who selected lower carbon footprint bottles of water and healthier cereals as a result of engaging with real-time personalized information at the point of purchase via augmented reality. Researchers also found a statistically significant decrease in participants' average carbon footprint by about 23%, sugars 32%, sodium about 10%, fat about 15%, and fiber an increase of about 47%. Nevertheless, it is difficult to generalize the results from this study with the small sample size and the specificity of the population and setting used. Another important aspect of the psychology of augmented reality is to look at visualization. Visualization is one great example of a condition that activates plasticity and improves skills. Again, evidence suggests that skills can improve and strengthen solely through visualization. Simulation of certain parts of the brain causes the creation of paternal neural networks such that the patterns create structural change that bring about a change in function and subsequent change in skills as well. Some researchers have already demonstrated the effectiveness of nutrition information visualization in augmented reality on improving skills for better understanding of nutrition information. In a new experiment by Jung Lee, Bjokka, and Kim in 2019, researchers projected spatial augmented reality visualizations to influence one's health attitudes and behaviors. They showed how engaging with augmented reality visualizations increased spatial presence, which led to increased negative emotion about smoking, with increased willingness to engage with smoking cessation efforts. The results of this study provide insight into the influence of augmented reality visualizations on affecting change in attitudes and behaviors towards health. More research is needed to examine the connection between spatial presence and attitudes and behaviors towards health messages with larger age groups and sample sizes coming from diverse locations other than the United States and from different settings other than universities. Positive emotions are experienced when a person evaluates an event as an opportunity to advance the goal. And research is often showing us how augmented reality is grounded in effective bases of behavior and in positive psychology, where the interplay between one's human body and the environment is achieving kind of a state of a flow that mediates the effect of perceived augmentation. Flow really matters to one's immersion because the more you are in flow, the more likely you are to be immersed. And the more immersed you are, the more likely you are to be in flow. But why do we really care about flow? The theory of flow is a critical concept of optimal engagement in mobile augmented reality. It gets people's attention and is a precursor to attitude and behavior change as well as learning and enjoyment. The main concept of flow is really vital to informing user interactivity with mobile augmented reality applications and in realizing a state of optimal experience that is needed to achieve a desirable control over one's information actions while supporting the changes in behaviors that are sustainable enough to withstand changes in external environment and life conditions. By applying the theory of flow, mobile augmented reality applications will have greater potential to allow users to recognize how important the behavior change is and the challenge that comes with it to their plan of life and control over a life well lived. Psychology of misinformation is critical in understanding how individuals handle misinformation, but while understanding the cognitive factors that render misinformation resistant to correction, according to El-Kour. It is defined as information that is initially assumed to be valid but is later corrected or retracted. There are other definitions as well for misinformation. Some define it as cases in which people's beliefs about factual matters are not supported by clear evidence and expert opinion. No matter what the definition is, all those definitions fit very well in defining the context of digital nutrition misinformation, where psychology science is required to examine the mechanisms by which misinformation is handled at the individual level, while understanding the cognitive factors that render misinformation resistant to correction. Three key elements of misinformation include agent, message, and interpreter. Phases of misinformation include creation, when the message is created, reproduction, when the message is turned into a media product, distribution, when the product is distributed or made public. There is a fourth phase for redistribution, which occurs when people actually use social media and tend to share the product that is being distributed or made public. There are, however, people who are more susceptible to misinformation than others, and this is better explained by the working memory, capacity, reasoning, and decision-making, according to El-Kour, personality traits, imagery abilities, back to visualization, pre-existing attitudes, and age. Some of the key psychological theories of misinformation are grounded in cognitive psychological theory, where we explain how people interact with the misinformation piece through the formation of mental models, or how misinformation affects reasoning and decision making, and then what cognitive factors limit the effectiveness and retractions and refutations, ensuring that misinformation sticks, and then the role of worldviews. However, the effect of misinformation is also amplified by repetition, which is something that we need to take into consideration as we plan forward in supporting people in interacting with an information or a misinformation piece. The theory of motivated reasoning is also worth highlighting here because it is one of the most popular theories in political misinformation. And the pillar of this theory is really focused on driving emotions. So are we really capable of driving positive emotions as we actually engage with pieces of information through social media and mobile augmented reality? This is a question that we probably need to answer along the way. Examining the persuasive effect of mobile augmented reality also requires us to understand how the psychology of misinformation intersects with the social influence of social media use. And as we talk about social influence, it is important to allude to the McLuhan's tetrad of media effects. And McLuhan, famous for the medium is the message, really looked at focusing on the social processes underlying the adoption of the medium. And he focused on the form of a medium, how embedding itself in the message, creating this symbiotic relationship by which the medium influences how the message is perceived. For instance, it could also mean that, the people are more interested in the gadget they use than the message it is saying. They may be more interested in the smartphone than the augmented reality that is relayed or being relayed when using the mobile phone. Yet, our focus here is not only about the social aspect of the McLuhan's tetrad of media effects. We're looking at the social influence of social media, which is defined as acting in accordance with peers, and is measured by the degree of changing someone's attitude or behavior towards something. There are several key theories involved in understanding social influence. One of them is the McLuhan's tetrad of media effects, Cialdini's theory of persuasion, which entails a lot of principles, including principles related to liking, reciprocation, social proof, validation, consistency, commitment, authority, and scarcity. Theories of personality, where people who are highly neurotic seem to be more susceptible to social influence. Social influence analysis, and the theory of media effects.